Hey guys, so today I wanted to make a video to show you how to change the charging port in the iPhone 5. So first of all, before we get started, I wanted to go over a few tools that we're going to be using on this procedure. This is a pentalobe, or Torx it's called, and it's size 0, as you can see in there. And that's to remove the bottom screws. There's 2 screws right here in the bottom. I already removed them, but I wanted to show them to you. So you're going to want to remove those first. Next, what we will also be using is a little Phillips screwdriver. It's size 000, as you can see right here. And you will probably going to be using the tweezers. I'll be using one anyways. And also a flat screwdriver. This is just a little flat one. I will also be using this handy little suction cup tool that I got. I wanted to show it to you. It's a handy little tool. It's like $9. And it's very much easier than trying to just use a suction cup like this on top of the screen. I've done this before, but believe me, this is much easier. So if you're going to be doing any opening at all, I highly recommend getting one of these. Now, any of these tools that I'll be using, I'll include links in the video description where I found them so you guys can find them easy. This is for the best price, and so any parts that I'm going to be using in this, I'll include links in the video description as well. So now to use this tool, all you need to do is take this out. It sits in here sideways like this, and it's support for the whole phone. Now they recommend putting it all the way down against here. I don't want to do that because I like keeping it as close to the home button as I can. But just make sure to just go above the home button so you get plenty of suction if you use a tool like this, or if you have a suction cup like this and you want to attempt it like that, just go just above the home button. Otherwise it doesn't want to suction very good right there with that. So all you need to do with this tool is just pry up, and it pops right up just like that. Now if your screen hasn't been apart in a long time and it's really dirty in there, what happens is right here in the screen, I'll try to show it, there's a little notch right here in this corner of the screen. So what you can do if you have something really fine like a tweezers or something is this corner usually starts up first, and without getting any nicks on the frame here, you'll want to try to get right under here and just pry very carefully. Sometimes I use a flat screwdriver sometimes, but it has to be really thin. Even a razor blade will work. Just make sure you don't damage the screen. And so then if you use a tool like this, all you need to do, it has tabs, but I can also just pry up right here, and that comes out, and then you can flip it down and you can get rid of this like that. And as you can see, this is a very handy tool to have. And like I said, it was like $9 I think, so it's an awesome tool. So next what you will want to do is tip this up very carefully. Don't go too far, and you don't want to go all the way straight. And then there's this little plate right here that has 3 screws in it, and I'll try to point them out. There's one there, and one there, as you can see. And so just make sure to take them in order. These 2 are the same size, but this one's different, and you'll know if you have a magnetic tip screwdriver, which I do, you'll know that this top screw here is not magnetized. That's how you tell the difference which one's the top one. But I would recommend just taking them out in order. So next, after you have the screws out, this plate will pretty much just slide sideways. I'm going to use a tweezer so I can get in here handy. Just slides sideways and just gets right out of there. Now what I would recommend, just make sure that you put your screws in a safe area where you're not going to bump them or lose them in the carpet or whatever you have as a floor underneath you. Be sure to keep them back from the edge. And also just make sure that you put them in order, and I like to put them right with the parts that I took out and lay them in the proper order. That way you know this screw is here, this screw is here, this screw is here. So just my personal preference. So next what you will want to do, I like to use a plastic pry tool for removing connectors, just so it for sure doesn't short anything out. And you can do it with metal ones, but I prefer plastic. Now you'll just want to go and remove the connector for the front camera, remove the connector for the LCD, and remove the connector for the digitizer. So there's 3 connectors right there, as you can see, and they all came off just like that. So next what we'll need to do is remove these covers right here. So we got to remove these 3 Phillips screws. Next we will need to take all the rest of these screws. There's 2 here on the headphone jack, there's 2 here, and there's 2 here, and 1 here. So we'll need to take all those screws out, make sure to keep them in the right order so you know how they go. Next, we'll need to pry up on these little golden prongs right here. Go right beside it and just work underneath it. It just has adhesive under it. And you can roll that back just like that. And then the speaker assembly will want to come up. You can just carefully pry up under here. And there's also this little metal tab here that we'll need to move, and then that corner can come up. Now you don't want to tip the speaker very much, and then because there's a piece that goes underneath the motherboard right here, the logic board. So you want to just tip it up like this, and then you want to wiggle it and pull it straight back. See this part here that I was talking about right there? You want to pull that straight back. And then we'll want to loosen this antenna wire right here on the logic board. And then we'll also want to pry underneath this connector right here. And this connector here will pop up. Now there's usually adhesive under here, so it pulls up kind of hard. So now if you're going to be replacing this, you don't need to worry about being too careful, but I like to be careful just anyways when I'm working on stuff like this. So what you want to do is you can start pulling up on this a little bit. If you have something to pry under here, you can, just to kind of help wiggle it loose. And then just keep working it. There's a part here that goes under the logic board, this corner here, so that part will pop out. And then if you keep working it, and if you pull a little tension this way as you're pulling so that the charging port here can pop out, and then the whole thing just kind of comes out. It lets loose and comes out just like that. So next, what you want to do is, if you have your new part, you will need to swap some things over to your new part. Now, I'll just go over it real quick here. There's this little cable right here that goes around on the headphone jack, and it just peels off right here. There's adhesive under here, and you can see how it goes underneath here. The metal part goes under this here, and then so you'll just have to stick it back on there. This part you don't have to worry about. You can just leave that hanging for now. And the rubber for the microphone, you can kind of see how that comes apart. If you roll it down, it comes apart right there. You can it's just got adhesive. You can just loosen it and then slide it out. And then so you'll have to just make sure that you put it back on. I would recommend having your same part right here and just putting it back on right away onto the new part so you can see how it goes. Now there's 4 little tiny washers under these 4 screws right here in the middle. If you see some floating around here that got bumped and they got out of place, that's where they go, on those 4 spots right there. So next, what I would say what works the best is grab your charging port, flex cable, and what we're going to try to do is put this corner here underneath that part that goes under the logic board first. Don't stick it down, but try to get it under there first. It's easier. And then what works the best is to get this middle part here set in. It has to kind of go inside. It can only go in one spot. You can see once the screw holes line up. And then it has to sit in there square. And then we're going to go ahead and put just this screw in on this side for now. And I'll show you why we want to just do that one. So next we can go ahead and just stick this down. We can even go ahead and fasten that connector right there. And then we can connect this antenna wire right here. And then next we'll get the headphone jack put into place here. And we can go ahead and put this screw right here in this corner in now. So then you want to take the microphone here, make sure that that rubber slides on all the way. You can see how it lines up there. And then next, before we do any more screws, let's go ahead and put the speaker assembly in. Now, as before mentioned, that part here has to go underneath the logic board, and just slide it under there carefully. And then everything sits down. Now, this is the reason why we left this screw out for now, is because this metal part here has to go in there. And so just put this over into place right there, and then you can put the screw in there and then put all your other screws in. Now that we have all those other screws put in, now you can go ahead and put this back down, these gold contacts. There's a little hole where that has to go, so you can see where it lines up, and then just stick it down because it has adhesive. And then, so just make sure everything's stuck down good, and then we're going to go ahead and put this top one on first, since that goes underneath. And then so we'll put a screw in on the top one to hold it. And you can kind of push this over if you need to line up for that screw hole. Then we'll put this one in, and then push this over to line up. You're ready for the screen. So now to reassemble the front screen, this connector here, the very bottom connector, goes the furthest up there on that spot. Then the next one goes in the middle there, and then of course this one goes on the side here. And you can see, once you set them down there, you can see what I mean. So you just grab your screen and you just bring it down here. And I just use my fingers. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain lining them up, but then all of a sudden they just click right in. Sometimes they go the first time. So then you'll want to do this middle one next, and you can just feel them snap in. And then you'll want to do that one. And then we have to do this protective cover here that holds them down, this plate. And what you want to do is kind of set it down like this, and then it kind of has to slide that way. And you have to kind of push down here because it has holes that it wants to slide into. Now this is a little tricky. You almost have to hold it like this, and then what I like to do is put this first screw right here. Then if you can get that screw in right there, that corner one, then that holds it. Your plate won't go anywhere now. And then you can go ahead and put that screw in and that screw in. So next, after you have those screws in, then we're going to want to take the screen, and you're going to want to set this down in here first, kind of at an angle like this. You can see that I have it tipped, and so you want to get the top in first, and then you just want to set this down, and you want to kind of just start working this down, and just a little bit at a time. If it gets stubborn a little bit, just kind of go back and forth. And then as you can see, it's kind of setting in nice. Then you want to go ahead and put your two screws back in, and we're going to want to put our SIM card back in. And then for the moment of truth. So now for the last part, if we've done everything correctly and it turns on and we can use everything, different things work like this. You can open it up, go to YouTube. As you can see, the home button works, everything's working. So there you go. And just remember that any parts that I use or any tools that I use, I'll include links in the video description, anything that I think might be helpful to you. And thanks so much for watching.